Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome to Carved in Stone. I'm your host, Shawn Chabam, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about distractions. Squirrel! Oh, right. You know, constant lightning rod AJ Brown has been a hot topic of discussion when talking about the Philadelphia Eagles lately. He's been tweeting in code, he's been voicing his frustration to reporters. He called the offense booty cheeks on Twitch, even though he was right, not really something you should say publicly. The bottom line seems to be that he wants to contribute to the team's success, which would be a good thing if he went about it a different way. It's inarguably a distraction, but here's what bothers me, and it's something that bothers me more about the media and the fans than AJ Brown himself. Look, you get certain guys who are just going to act a certain way in certain situations. It's just the way it is. If he's not being utilized the way he feels he should be, or he just isn't playing up to par, this is the AJ Brown you're going to get. Brown went about dealing with his anger in a different way last season by reading this book, Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy, on the sidelines, and everybody lost their minds. So, congratulations, you got what you wanted, I guess. AJ, to my knowledge, hasn't cracked a book on the sideline all season. Instead, you have him insulting his team, making you wonder if he's on the same page as Jalen Hurts. He even said that if he's no longer the same player, neither is Saquon Barkley. A rare instance that he called out another player by name. Hey, at least he admitted the defense is what saves this team, right? Over and over. Not that we needed him to, if we have functioning eyes, but he did do that. I know the book thing on the sideline is unprofessional. I'm not denying that. But it beats this alternative. And before you say, oh, this would happen at my job, I think we've all figured out by now that pro sports are not like other jobs. There's simply no comparison between what you can do as an NFL player and what you can do as a 9-to-5er, whether you agree with it or not. Circling back to what I said earlier, certain players are just going to act a certain way under certain circumstances. You see a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson, who the Eagles have let go of twice now, I believe because of how he acts, and reports have alleged this too. It's certainly not his play on the field. He was terrific both stints in Philly. Then CJGJ talks smack on the team after he's gone, and I don't even care. He was a major contributor getting to Super Bowls 57 and 59 and winning the latter. That said, I don't deal with him personally, so I can't speak to his locker room demeanor and how others feel about him. Brown wants to contribute, a good thing, but it's become a distraction because of his comments, even though the team is in line for a division title and first round bye. Like I said, I'm mad at the people who criticized him last season for reading this book. My thought at the time was, would you rather him run his mouth to the media? That's what's happening now instead of reading a book. Call me crazy, but I prefer him reading to blabbing to the media about the offense being booty cheeks, even though he was right. You know, he alluded to Barkley not having the year he did last season, which reminds me that I wanted to address something I said in episode 7 that was released this past Friday, linked up top. I was talking about the offensive line from the McNabb days being bested only by today's O-line. That's the trouble with recording my main episodes early. The O-line, I figured, would remain a pillar of consistency, but it hasn't been as dominant as it has been in past years, so I wish I hadn't said that or worded it slightly differently. I just didn't expect to digress that much, even with Mekhi Becton leaving. I thought O-line coach Jeff Stoutland could plug that hole nicely with Tyler Steen. And I'm not blaming Steen. The offense, or the offensive line as a whole hasn't been as great. They're not opening up lanes for Barkley. Now, this is due in part because teams are really zeroing in on Barkley. You see the lanes they are creating for Tank Bigsby when the defense isn't zeroed in on Saquon. Another big part of that is probably offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo's pathetically predictable play calling, more so than the players or Stoutland. Future Hall of Famer right tackle Lane Johnson being injured isn't going to help this line, although Fred Johnson has done an exceptional job when called upon in relief this year. Back to the coordinator, Patullo is a big reason for Brown's woes this year. Brown is a great receiver over the middle. Hurts has even said he wants to throw over the middle more, even though there's a misconception that he doesn't. And Hurts is a guy who almost never talks to the media about things he wants the team to do differently. I mean, these were Brown's routes last week in the 16-9 victory over the Detroit Lions from Next Gen Stats. Nothing over the middle. Short routes, for the most part, for a guy who's explosive. So, even if AJ has lost a step, which seems to be a popular opinion, Patullo's really not giving him a chance to prove otherwise. Thankfully, wide receiver Devontae Smith is playing well when called upon, and the defense is stepping up big time. I mean, the Eagles scored a combined 26 points in their last two games over the Green Bay Packers and the Lions. This is a very similar offense to last season, personnel-wise, with the exception of the OC. And last season, they averaged 27.2 points per game. The biggest change? Losing Kellen Moore to the New Orleans Saints and replacing him with this bum. One last thing about A.J. Brown. After Super Bowl 59, like 2 or 3 days later, he said that it didn't feel the way that he thought it would. Like, he was happy for 2 or 3 days, and then what really drives him is the chase. I actually thought that was a good thing. I'm like, okay, great. He wants to run it back. He wants to win Super Bowl 60 and go back to back. A lot of people took this the wrong way. You know, they kind of said that he's a diva for whatever reason. People seem to say that about wide receivers regardless, even though, you know, I'll admit he has definitely shown some diva behavior. But people they try to twist everything so negatively. And I thought that was a positive that was really being spun in a negative way. You know, they say, well, not they, but just some people I've heard say, and I think it's true, nobody hates a Philadelphia athlete more than the Philadelphia media. This podcast is not endorsed, sponsored by, or affiliated with Inner Excellence, Jim Murphy, the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL, Next Gen Stats, or any of their properties. Player and personnel images are sourced from Wikimedia Commons unless otherwise indicated under appropriate licensing. This was a rare instance where I am coming out with a 0.5 episode on a Sunday. I was originally going to wait until Black Friday to come out with this, but I didn't think I'd have a ton of time to record on Thanksgiving week, and I wanted to get my thoughts out on A.J. Brown and his distractions before this upcoming game today. You know, I've probably said 4 or 5 times this season, this is the week the offense finally puts it all together. I'm done saying that. Probably the best the offense has looked was against the Minnesota Vikings, a game I attended. Beautiful stadium in Minnesota, by the way. I highly recommend visiting US Bank Stadium if you ever get the chance. But like I said, I'm done saying it's the offense's week to shine. I was hopeful that, like last season, they'd turn a corner after the bye. The offense has actually gotten worse since then. Some people think this is parallel to the 2023 end-of-year collapse, but you have to remember, that was the whole team that was putrid. Half this squad is playing their best ball, just absolutely lights out. The Eagles take on the Dallas Cowboys on the road today, and I predict the defense saves this team again. Eagles 17, Cowboys 13. The Birds also have a Black Friday game versus the super surprising Chicago Bears next week, a game that's going to be a lot more difficult than I thought it would be when the schedule was released. I think I covered everything I wanted to. I probably missed something. I usually do, and then kick myself about it later. Thanks for letting me distract you from whatever. Squirrel! Anyway, I'll see you next time. Oh, yeah. Go Birds.